This is an upper body strength practice for your late luteal phase, so that premenstrual territory and into your early bleed phase. So the last few days of your cycle and the first few days of your period. During this time in your cycle, the name of the game is protecting your body. So energetically, we are experiencing a little bit of a dip as hormones plummet. It's a pretty dramatic change from high hormone territory in the mid-luteal phase. We see this very steep decline. So with that, we see some significant changes in physiology. Inflammation is on the rise. You feel your energy levels dip, and we're more prone to feeling run down. The immune system comes back online after taking a brief break, and that can leave you feeling a little bit less motivated, and it's a great opportunity to enjoy a deload day. So that's what this practice is all about. The deload portion just means that we're shifting to something around 50% of what you might otherwise use in this workout. So if you were in the follicular phase, you would take that weight selection and cut it in half. You can also work with body weight only and just focus on the movement patterns without any weight at all. So in today's practice, we have that light weight. We're working 2 weighted sets of 3 exercises each that will complete each in 3 rounds. And then in between, we have a little bit of a body weight break. What I want you to focus on in this practice is, yes, we have load, but I want you to really hone in on the mechanics and the kind of the engagement in each of the movement patterns. So it's a great way to kind of practice these skills when we have a lighter load. So we have that lower weight range. In the body weight movement patterns, I want you to think about moving very slowly, very intentionally. I know a lot of times when we get into some of these body weight explosive patterns, we think hit and we try to accelerate the pace. But instead today, give yourself that invitation, that opportunity to move slowly and fluently throughout so that you are experiencing the time under tension with more awareness, with more presence in that slower pace. So we have the first 3 exercises completed 3 rounds, the middle body weight break. There's 5 exercises for a minute each, and then 3 rounds of 3 weighted exercises at the end. There is a designated rep scheme for this practice, but for the purposes of the guided video, we'll be working 2 timed intervals. So we're working 50 seconds of the working effort portion of the interval, and then 30 seconds of rest. So we have that nice longer rest period to really collect your breath. But again, we're not working into high intensity, so you should find that that is enough time to recover. Pay attention to your breath the whole way through. If you find that you start to get breathless, or maybe you get into that high exertion, you're pushing through the low intensity threshold, I want you to dial it back, either drop the weight, maybe you switch to single-sided movement, whatever you need to do to come back and get the breath under control. So you'll hear that as I move through kind of those adjustments being made, and I encourage you to do those whenever they're appropriate for you. So now let's get into our warm-up. This is a very quick warm-up to prepare the upper body for strength training. So we'll work through 10 different warming exercises, each for 30 seconds, just to get both your heart rate slightly elevated, to generate some heat, and prepare the arms, shoulders, back, and chest to work. So I'll get our timer started. We will begin in about 10 seconds. We'll be starting with a simple cat and cow. So you can come into your tabletop position, shoulders over the wrist, hips over the knees. Start to knit the low ribs and hip points together, and then we'll begin. So we soften the belly on the inhale, send your gaze up, and then as you exhale around through the back, draw the belly to spine, chin to chest, let your head hang heavy. Inhale, extend the spine, shine your sitting bones back, ripple up bone by bone, and then exhale, round in. So just really working through the different spaces in the spine here, looking for any points that feel a little bit stuck and creating some mobility. After this, we'll be tucking the toes, coming into bear plank. As you're ready, lift your knees off the mat. And here we're just going to alternate, taking one arm forward, bring the elbow to the side, reach it forward, and back down. The goal here is to keep the hips and shoulders square so that you're really toning the belly, recruiting the abdominals, and then allowing the shoulders and the arms to work to stabilize here. We've got about 5 more seconds, and then we're shifting into a downward dog. As you're ready, come into downward dog. From here, we'll stay just a moment in downward dog and then roll forward, come to plank pose. Let your knees touch down, push up, bring your chest to the earth. Slowly come back up through plank and then back to downward dog. You can bend the knees, get a little bit of a spring. Come forward, knees touch down, push up and back up to downward dog. Last one like this, roll forward, let your knees touch down, push up, and then we're coming right back up. From downward dog here now, we're turning to the side. Step one foot behind, pull your elbow behind you like you're loading a bow and arrow, and then switch, roll to the other side. Step the top foot behind, pull that elbow. So it's wild thing, just alternating sides with that slow arm pull. Rotating here, coming onto the other side, almost there in this round, and then we'll slowly come back through downward dog. Start to walk your hands toward your feet, deep bend in the knees, so create a lot of space there. Take opposite elbows, ragdoll. Allow the torso to twist side to side. Let the head and neck be heavy. Create some space in the upper back here so you feel that gentle pull around the shoulder blades. About 10 more seconds. Just enjoying this forward bend. And then we're going to start to rotate. So as you're ready, come to one side. Keep the elbow clasp. Rotate the torso. Come all the way back down. Bend the knees deeply. And then switch directions. So these nice wide circles coming through a side bend. Keeping that clasp in the elbows to stretch the shoulder. Come all the way around and back down. Switch directions. We're here just a few more seconds in these torso circles. And then slowly come up, keep the clasp in the elbows, and then we'll enjoy a nice side bend. So lift up and out of the pelvis and over to the side. Keep that clasp stretching in the armpit, all the way along the side body. Really root down through that opposite foot and come up through center to the other side. Nice deep side bend here. Really root down evenly through both feet. See if you can press your elbows back behind you. Come up through center, and then we'll slowly release the arms to T. Here we're just crisscrossing the arms so you can cross, maybe reach for your shoulder blades, and then open nice and wide. Stretch the chest without flaring the low ribs. Cross, grab your shoulder blades, and then open, stretch across the chest. Just switching sides, switching the cross each time. Opening nice and wide, so look for that integration in the low belly so you're not flaring the low ribs. We're lifting low ribs and hip points toward each other. Last one like this, and then we'll take eagle arms. So we wrap one arm under, one arm over. We wrap elbows, forearms, and wrists, and then press the palms. And then really hug the elbows in together. Try to broaden the inner shoulders away from each other. And then we're slowly going to twist to one side. So keep the hips square to the front and twist. We'll release those arms out to T. So you've got a T twist here. Press your palms away. And then we'll slowly come back through center, switch sides. So take the opposite arm under, opposite arm over into eagle arms. Again, hug the elbows, the forearms, the palms, and then spread the inner shoulders apart. And then we twist to the other side, to the left here. Keep the hips square. Release your arms to T. Press the palms in opposite directions. So we're really starting to wake up the intercostal muscles around the rib cage. And then we'll come back through center. We'll find opposite elbows once again overhead. And from here, we're simply going to hip hinge and then reach behind you. Take the opposite elbows and hip hinge again. Reach overhead, find your elbows, hip hinge, and come up. We'll be here just a few more seconds. This is our last warming exercise. We're really just preparing the body for that upper body strength work. Last 10 seconds. Reach it forward and come up. So we're waking up the posterior chain here, all the muscles in the spine, and we are done. You might give a few shoulder circles, just kind of finishing up this warm up. You are ready for your upper body strength work now. Now that your upper body is warmed up, we will get right into our upper body strength work. We've got about 30 seconds to set up for our first exercise, which is a supine press and tricep extension. So we're going to come down. The knees can stay bent throughout this exercise. And we're going to start with the weights at 90 degrees. So the arms bent at 90 degrees. Keep your elbows hugging in. Gently press the lower back into the mat by hugging the hip points up towards the low ribs. We're going in just over 5 seconds here. Get ready. 3, 2, and 1. So we press that weight up, and then we keep the elbows in parallel tracks, the arms in parallel tracks, come through that tricep extension, and then back down. Focus on mind-muscle connection here, so really feeling the contraction in the working muscle. So we come down, you feel the biceps and the chest, and then the tricep extension as you squeeze the backs of the arms to take that weight overhead. I encourage you, especially in this phase of your cycle, you're in the last days or even in the early days of your bleed, encourage you to move slowly and intentionally. So we're looking for that conscious breath, that conscious action, and mind-muscle connection. We've got 3, 2, and 1. Slowly transition from this supine position up to kneeling. So take your time as we're moving through. This is a time in the cycle where you might experience those dramatic blood pressure changes. So just be careful as you slowly come up into your kneeling position. Our next movement pattern is the front press with a halo. So we're creating that stable, strong starting place with the hip bones lifting to low ribs. Stretch up through the heart, and let's begin. Press it out, find that long lever arm, come back in, and then wrap that weight around. Really feel the stretch in the shoulders as you take that weight around. So you're exploring the full range of motion of that beautiful shoulder joint, how it can move in all directions around in a circle. We're creating that halo around the head. Here, as you take the weight out away from you, be mindful not to lean away. So try not to create that natural counter position as the weight comes out away from the body in that long lever arm. So we're wrapping it around. We've got about 10 more seconds here. Really squeeze the ends of the dumbbell as you come out, and then wrap it around. Keep the elbows nice and tight, close to the center of the body as you come around, and rest. So we have these longer resting intervals. We're coming into our seated front raise and rotate next. So we've got longer recovery periods. It's a time in the cycle where our bodies benefit from that little bit of extra time in between, both to change body position and to let your body come back to a fresh starting point. So we'll go in 5 seconds here with our front raise and rotation. Brace the belly, lift those hip bones towards the low ribs. We lift it up, front raise, and rotate. You might not come all the way in that rotation, and that is perfectly okay. We're looking to rotate only in the upper body as you come side to side. So really fix the heels and the backs of the legs into the mat as your anchor point and rotate. Come back through center. If this gets to be too much or it's hard to get through the full range of motion, you can hear it in my breath, then you can always drop the weight to a lighter set or body weight only. This movement is one that is so effective. It's effective in strengthening and also liberating the upper back. So allowing the upper back to move independent from the hips. That can help alleviate back pain and rest. Come back to your supine position, grab both weights. We'll bend the knees and get set up for the press to tricep extension. So again here, create that integration in the low belly by lifting the hip points toward the low ribs, or you can think of it as moving pubic bone toward the navel, but without tucking the glutes. So you don't want to force the pelvis into that posterior tilt. And let's begin. Press it up, take it back, squeeze the biceps, and then squeeze the triceps. So here we're targeting the upper arms. So really focus on that slow and steady pace so that you can feel the engagement, the activation. You can really target the upper body, the upper arms, here. You'll also feel that little bit of bracing action, stabilizing action in the belly, especially if you're using 2 dumbbells, where you're having to use core strength to keep those arms in parallel tracks. This is great work for this time in the cycle, lightweight, with the ability to really focus and concentrate on the breath. And rest. Slowly transition up to your kneeling position next. So as we move through lighter weight ranges, lower intensities, we can really focus on diaphragmatic breathing, and that can help shift us into a parasympathetic nervous system response, that rest and digest mode, when we have more sympathetic drive from hormones, or the dip in hormones in this case, during this phase of the cycle. So you can use your breath to help create more balance. We'll go in 2, 1, press it forward, take it in, and wrap it all the way around. So press, squeeze the ends of the dumbbell, take it in and around. So here, keep the shoulders broadening apart, the chest nice and open, and breathing all the while. So it's okay if this work feels a little bit on the easy side. I want you to think of this as an investment in your next cycle. So during this time when inflammation tends to be on the rise, we might feel a little bit run down. If that's to happen, it is most likely to happen during this key transition from high hormone to very low hormone states. So this lower intensity is an investment. Rest in your next cycle. All of the efforts you take in supporting your physiology now allow you to work harder later. So rest now so that you can work hard later. Coming into our seated front raise and rotation next in about 15 seconds. So come into position. Again here, make sure that you're on the front of your sitting bones so you get that slight anterior pelvic tilt, tipping it forward. We'll bring the weight onto your lap and let's begin. Create a little bit more space here. We raise it up and twist. So feel the obliques really working here as you're creating that static hold in the shoulders. So you want to keep aiming both hip points forward. So your opposite side is going to want to twist to make this movement a little bit easier. Instead, I want you to focus on keeping the hips in the same plane and really driving the effort into the obliques and the upper body. So you feel that bracing action. You can hear it in the breath. We've got about 10 more seconds here. And down. Lift it up and to the side and come back. So we are resting now for about 30 seconds, and then we'll come into our final round of these 3 exercises. So back to the supine press and overhead extension. Come into position, and we'll go in about 10 seconds. So you can bring the arms to 90 degrees and really preserve that angle as you come through each of the end phases of the movement. Let's begin. Press it up and then come to that 90-degree bend. Squeeze the biceps as you come down and then press the backs of the triceps to lift up. Take it down, press, and overhead. Squeeze, find a full range of motion here. So if you can come past 90 here and feel that contraction in the bicep, that is totally okay. Or you can choose to pause at 90 degrees, create that little bit of an isometric contraction, and then squeeze the backs of the triceps. So it's almost a little bit easier to come past 90 degrees. You get a little bit of a break for the backs of the arms. But if you want more challenge, find that pause, that stopping point at 90 degrees. Last 3, 2, and 1. Slowly come up to your kneeling position. Transitioning to a single weight. You can set one weight off to the side. We'll be working through that front press to the halo. So again, feel the mobility in the shoulders without twisting the spine. So you want the spine to stay upright and elevated the whole time. And we really want to focus that mobility element in the shoulders. We'll go in 3, 2, and 1. Press that weight out, bring it in, and then work the shoulders all the way through. Press it out and in. Switch directions all the way around. If you have a high ponytail like me, you might find that it gets in the way. That lets you know that you're in the right range of motion, staying nice and close to the head, not going too wide around and back. Press it forward, in and around. So you should feel a little bit of work, a little bit of heat accumulating here, but certainly nothing that starts to push you toward fatigue. You shouldn't hit a point where you have to stop. This should be nice and easy, even if you have to ditch the weights altogether and just work with body weight only and rest. 30 seconds on the clock. Coming into that final round of front raise with a rotation from a seated position here. So again, lift the sitting bones up so that you tilt forward in the pelvis. You can stretch up through the spine. If you need to, you can always elevate the pelvis or sit on a chair for this exercise. We're going in just over 5 seconds here. Keep the spine nice and tall. That alone requires a lot of strength in the back. And let's begin. Front raise up and twist. Keep the hips nice and square. It is not easy to work through this range of motion, but we're helping to articulate the different components of the spine individually. So bone by bone, we can rotate and create more mobility in the spine so that we get out of the pattern that sort of fuses the movement of the hips and upper back, or the hips and rib cage together, and instead allows them to move independently and freely relative to each other. When we add the element of a little bit of resistance, this little bit of weight, it helps to drive that pattern home, creates a little bit more adaptation and rest. Let's ditch our weights for the next 5 minutes. We'll take a little bit of a body weight break here. Our first movement pattern will be the plank launch. So we're starting in that kind of modified downward dog with the knees bent, heels lifted, and launching forward to plank. I like to start this one from plank position so that you make sure you have your hands in the right position relative to the shoulders. So wrists are directly under the shoulders. We'll go in 3, 2, and 1. Bend the knees, lift the heels, and launch forward to plank. Bend back, stretch the spine, and come forward. Stretch the heart forward. So it's like you're reaching crown of the head and heart forward, but really stopping the movement when the shoulders are over the wrists. So creating that little bit of internal resistance, finding that stopping point. Connect to your breath here. So find that forceful exhale as you launch forward, and inhale to load it back. We inhale on the way back and exhale to come forward. So use this deeper connection to the breath to help anchor your awareness, your presence to what is happening in your body. We have just 10 more seconds. We don't have any transition time, so we'll just use the last few seconds of each interval to nice and slowly transition. So in 3, 2, 1, we're moving to plank up, down. So we lower a forearm, press it up and up, and then switch sides. Forearm comes down, press it up and up. Here, I want you to focus on keeping the hips and the shoulders level the entire time. So they're not dipping down to make this movement happen, but we're isolating that strength in the arms. This can be very slow in this phase. So we're not looking for a HIIT workout. This is a body weight break. So we're looking to slow it down, focus on that nice controlled movement in, out, and up. We've got about 15 more seconds left, and then we're switching to a lateral bear plank walk. Find that smooth and steady breath rhythm, and let's switch. So you can come to one side of your mat, find your bear plank. So shoulders are over the wrists, over the knees. We step it out and together. Nice and slow, out and together. Feel the action in the legs mirrored in the arms. So you have the inner thighs and the inner chest working to bring the legs and arms together. Side to side, out and in. Reach it out and in. Again, keep the shoulders and hips in that level plane the whole time so that you're steady and smooth. We're not popping the hips up and back. We're staying in that level plane. We've got just over 20 seconds. We step it out and in, out and in. So in about 5 seconds, we'll start to transition to our kick through with a pull. So you can come down to the center of your mat. We're coming into bear plank once again. And this time we're kicking through. So you take one leg under, pull the top arm back. Find that hip lift here and take it nice and slow. So break down the movement. Bottom foot comes out, top arm reaches and pulls back. Come back to center and rotate. I'm going to slow the pace a little bit. I feel my breath getting a little bit out ahead of me, getting away from me just a touch. So I slow it down and pull, lift the hips as you come through. Really focus on the mechanics here of this movement so that as you take this into, say, more accelerated paces, maybe into your HIIT workouts in other phases, you have the integration, you have the mechanics, the blueprint in your body, in your muscle memory. Last 3, 2, and 1. Now we're coming into upward table with the optional toe touch. So you can be just lifting the hips up, really stretching the chest and down, or adding the toe touch, lifting the opposite foot to opposite hand. Coming down, slowing it down, and get control of your breath. And take it in and out. Keep the belly engaged the whole time, so try not to collapse in the low ribs, low belly, but instead keep that engagement all the way through, start to finish. We've got about 20 more seconds in this body weight break, and then we'll be going straight into our kneeling Arnold press. Going in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, last 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we've got about 30 seconds on the clock, and then we're transitioning to our kneeling Arnold press. So you'll come down into a kneeling position, and we'll get our weights into that rotational press. We'll go in just about 15 seconds here. Grab your weight, get set up in that kneeling position. Lift the hip points and the low ribs together. Bring your weights up to shoulder height, and let's begin in 2, 1. So we rotate it around and up. Again, this is the time to move slow and controlled. So you want to keep crown to tail in that strong axis, straight up and down. Doesn't move forward or back. We're focusing the movement in the arms here. So again, we're getting that beautiful rotation in the shoulders, that stretch through the strength movement that allows us to really create more postural balance. So we get to stand more upright. We're working the upper back here. And the more that we can improve posture, the better alignment we have for our vital organs. Everything has more space to function effectively. Last 2 and 1, coming into bear plank row next. So you can set your weights down. We're coming into that bear plank position where the shoulders are over the wrists and the hips are directly over the knees. So we've got that same hugging of the hip bones and low ribs together as we come into this quadruped or bear plank position. So we're going in about 10 seconds here. Remember, take the elbow straight back towards the hip to avoid dipping the shoulder forward. In 3, 2, 1, hover the knees, pull it back and down. Find that nice slow and steady pace. I want you to try and keep the shoulders square to the floor and the hips in a level plane. So we're not popping the hips open or up as you take the weight back and down. Reach it back, elbow to hip, and come down. The shoulders stay directly over the wrists and the hips directly over the knees. You should feel this working in the belly just as much as the back. This, in a lot of ways, is a more challenging approach to a renegade row. Requires more core stability and helps keep your lower back safe. 2 and 1, rest. So it's a great one to add into your programming because it does give you the same core stabilization, the same access to the row, to the back without compromising your lumbar spine. Our final movement in this set is the Z press. So we're coming into that seated position. Again, tilting the pelvis slightly forward. Bring the weights onto the front of the shoulders. Stretch up through the spine, and let's begin. Press it up and take it down. So again here, as you take the weight overhead, try not to flare the low ribs. So keep them hugging back and into the body. Lift those hip points up to close that gap. That'll help isolate the range of motion in the shoulders, help keep the focus there. If your weights are getting heavy, you can start to alternate arms and move a little bit slower until you get control of your breath. I can feel that in my own breath. So I'm just going to take it down a little bit. This is the hard work in the late luteal and your early menstrual phase, where your body benefits from the lower intensity, but sometimes it's getting your mind on board, getting your mind on the same page, and rest. So that's something I struggle with in my own practice of dialing back. But I can tell you from personal experience, when I started really focusing on that investment period, the last few days of the cycle, really dialing it back, focusing on circulation and lower intensity, that's when I started to see more results in the other phases, and the phases where you can work harder. Coming into kneeling Arnold press next, 2 and 1. So I started to see that I could work even harder. I could lift heavier weight in the next follicular phase. I was making more progress. I started to see changes not only on the scale, but in the way that my clothes fit, the way my muscle definition showed up. And it's all because we're giving the body the opportunity to repair and to recover. So if we continue working hard when the body is already at a resource deficit, when we're already in breakdown mode, then we're just exacerbating the effects of each point in the cycle. So in the late luteal phase, we are contributing to inflammation or maybe muscle wasting, breakdown, rather than kind of meeting the body where it is and allowing it to recover and repair so that you come back strong and rest. Bear plank row is next. Get your body into position. All that to say, there is benefit. There is a method to this approach of dialing back, of really enjoying the lower intensity and showing up for yourself, knowing that you can look forward to your workout because it's not going to wring you out. It's not going to leave you operating at an energy deficit. Let's go in 3, 2, 1, shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees. Pull that elbow back towards the hip. Take it back and down. Reach toward the hip and back down. Again, keep the shoulders and the hips nice and level through the entire movement. So we're not rotating the spine. We're using core stabilization, core engagement to stay steady and strong. Breathe out as you reach that elbow back and in as you come down. You can slow your pace, keep it nice and steady here. Try to keep broadening across the chest, creating lots of space in the cervical spine, the neck, so you're not shrugging the shoulders. Last 2 and 1. Coming into our Z press next. So transitioning to a seat. This is the end of round 2. We have just one more round after this, and then we'll transition right to our cool down. So come into that seated position. Feel the strength in the belly just to keep this L shape in the legs and upper body. Bring your weights to the front of the shoulders here. And again, I can feel my breath kind of getting away from me, so I'm going to transition to single-sided work here. So pressing up and back down until I can regain control of the breath. So you should be able to breathe pretty naturally in and out through the nose throughout this practice. So if you start to feel that you're getting a little bit too elevated, maybe you're pushing past that low intensity threshold, just dial it back, either going to single-sided, maybe you're ditching the weight altogether, maybe you're taking extra pause at the end of each movement, whatever you need to do to come back to that low intensity zone. We're here for just over 5 seconds now, and then we're coming into our third and final round. Slowly transition back to your kneeling Arnold press. So coming into the kneeling position, this is our last round of these. We'll make them count in about 20 seconds. You can maybe give some shoulder circles here, maybe crisscross the arms, just exploring and experiencing where you feel the work from this practice. Take a big breath and sigh it out. Let's get the weights into position. We'll move in 2, 1. Take the weights around and up, and then trace your path back down. So follow that nice smooth rhythm all the way up and all the way back down. Rotate, engage the chest, and then find the shoulders and upper back. So almost like you're squeezing the weights into each other at the bottom to create that conscious contraction, and then pressing it up. We're here, 20 more seconds. This is the home stretch of this workout. You have shown up for yourself. Stay with it until the end. Last few reps here. Quality reps, just focus on the next best one. 3, 2, and 1. Coming down now to your bear plank row. So shoulders will be over the wrists, hips over the knees. Remember, if you're starting to get like me towards the end of this workout and your breath is getting away from you, you can always take the knees down and take this as a tabletop row. So just side to side with the knees down. That'll take out a lot of the stabilizing action and it'll take out the work in the legs. So what gets the heart pumping is those larger muscle groups. Let's begin. So you can start with that hover. Make it nice and slow. But then if you need to, you can bring the knees down to that tabletop row and just focus on the upper body. You'll notice as soon as the legs stop working, your breath rhythm might slow significantly. So whatever you need to stay in that lower intensity range for the next 20 seconds or so, take your options here. Really focus on elbow towards the hip. Keep the shoulders externally rotated. That strong loading position. And breathe. Almost there. Last 3, 2, and 1. Last exercise now, coming into the Z press, transition to a seat. You can extend your legs out long and lift the shoulders nice and high. So you want your shoulders to be directly over the hips, not leaning forward or back, but you have that nice strong L shape in the body. Get your weights up to the shoulders in that front position, that front rack position, and let's begin. Press it up, feel the shoulders stretch. Slowly come back down. Lift it up and slowly lower back down. So here in this last set, can you really focus on the muscles at work? So can you feel each phase of that time under tension? And really kind of map that mind-muscle connection. So it's part of this body mapping process that is so important as we're trying to connect more deeply to self, to body through movement. You can do it in even the simplest actions like this press overhead. Make it infinitely interesting to pay attention to the different phases of movement and how your muscles work, how they change. Last one, press it up and take it down. You can set your weights off to the side. We will slowly, nice and easy, transition up to standing. So you might take your hands to your thighs to help yourself up, just to avoid that that dramatic change in blood pressure. Give your shoulders a bit of a circle, maybe a crisscross out in front. That is the end of our weighted workout for today. You have just wrapped up your upper body strength work, and now it is time to cool down. If you find that your heart rate is still very, very elevated, you might enjoy some dynamic movement to start, just to guide your breath back down to a more neutral place before we come into cool down mode. Otherwise, we will start our cool down in just about 10 seconds. So we'll take the feet nice and wide, maybe roll out the shoulders, and then we're simply going to reach opposite arms and tap the toes here. So again, this opening pattern of our cool down, this first one, is really just to help guide the body back down. So if you were coming from high intensity or maybe a quicker pace to finish out your workout, this can help kind of create that smooth transition from high to low. We're switching after this to a nice deep side bend in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So take the arms up and overhead, nice deep side bend. So one hand comes to the bottom hip. We reach the opposite arm up and over. See if you can spin that top shoulder open and reach. And then we'll switch sides. So bring the opposite hand to hip, reach the fingertips up and over. Rotate that top shoulder behind and find that nice deep stretch in the sides of the waist. And then we'll come back up through center. Let's bring the feet to about hips width distance and fold over the legs. Nice deep bend in the knees. We'll keep the left hand planted, spin the right arm open, bend deeply into your left knee, and then wrap the right arm around. Find your left hip crease. So we're stretching, rotating, twisting the upper back, and then we'll switch sides. So right hand comes down, left arm twists open, bend deeply into the right knee, wrap that left arm around, find your right hip crease. We'll be here for 3, 2, and 1. Slowly come back. We'll transition to downward dog and simply alternate between this nice big downward dog and then let the knees touch down, extend the spine, and cow pose. As you exhale around, find downward dog and knees come down, cow pose, stretch the spine. So just finding that fluid pattern up and back and then slowly touching down. We'll come into downward dog one last time and then let the knees lower. Find puppy pose. Walk your hands out in front. Let the crown of your head melt towards the ground. From here, take your elbows to the mat. Bend the elbows, reach the hands toward the shoulder blades. So you get this nice deep tricep stretch. Backs of the arms, the armpits, maybe even a little bit of shoulder stretch there. And then we'll slowly start to unfold, coming out of puppy. Come into your kneeling position, and we'll find our eagle arms. So we find this nice eagle arm position and circle the neck around and side to side. So we're just stretching the shoulders, releasing any tension that you might have in the neck or the jaw after upper body work. A lot of times, depending on the grip and the nature of your workout, you might carry some tension after upper body work here. So just side to side and all the way around. Then we'll switch the cross of the arms. So take the other arm underneath and again, circle the neck. You might even take it back slightly and around. And then move it side to side. Just explore full range of motion in the cervical spine. Looking for any points that get a little bit stuck. And just breathing, flowing through there so that you aren't carrying any tension off your mat with you. And you can release your arms from here. We'll take one hand to the same side heel and reach the opposite arm overhead. And just a little modified camel here. So we're stretching the front side of the body, finding a little bit of space in the shoulders, a little bit of a back bend, using your heels for support. You can even come onto the toes if you're finding it a little bit hard to reach the heels. Last one like this, and slowly transition. We're going to come on to a seat now, taking your feet out in front. So we're lifting the hips up into upward table and coming back down. You can even start to reach one arm up and come back down, switching sides. Reach, stretch the chest, and come back down. Or you can keep both hands down to press up and back down. Lift the hips here and slowly lower. Now we'll come into our shoulder rack position. So this should feel really good after any shoulder work, any strength work there. So you can straighten the legs all the way and then just walk the hands behind you. Try not to shrug or dip the shoulders forward. Keep them nice and spacious. Breathe to expand the chest, broaden and open the front side of the body. And we'll slowly walk the hands in. Give your knees a bit of a hug to stretch the upper back. Really round the spine here, chin to chest. Maybe bring your forehead toward your knees. And then we'll slowly transition. Bring your hands out in front. Roll up bone by bone all the way to standing, nice and slow. Let's enjoy a huge breath in together. Inhale. And sigh it out. Exhale. That completes your upper body strength work for today. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this workout, for being here, and for letting your body be moved.